everyone is on camera now, even though we've all been on camera for a long time and didn't realize it through job interviews. You know, the CEOs in Singapore has got to talk to you today. We stream meetings. You've been queen of Instagram Live for such a long time, right? But I meant for all of us, business to business video. I create content on LinkedIn. And my point is, I started too. I was like so firmly a behind the scenes person. And then business, technology, social media, marketing, all this stuff said, no, we all have to be in front of a camera.
Hey everybody, welcome to It Takes a Village. I'm your host, Delina Medhin, and this is the most personal I have ever been. It Takes a Village is a time capsule collection. 10 intimate episodes where I share with you the people that have guided almost every business decision I've made. In 2008, I began my career as a makeup artist, taking on clients in the evenings and weekends, trying to fit it around my 9-to-5 job. And in 2015, I made the I wish it was hard, but I was tired of working for somebody else decision to quit that corporate job, that corporate six-figure job, and fully commit to being a self-employed entrepreneur. That's where the roller coaster of finances, belief in myself, and how much I was willing to endure for my dream was really put to the test. When we see social media, we always look at the end result, but this collection is a deep dive into the process. To my aspiring entrepreneurs, this is my open love letter to you. The most important thing I did was to get around like-minded people. People who believe in themselves have the ability to inspire you to believe more in yourself. My dream for you is to develop an unshakable belief in your own ability to win and to identify your own personal village so you can become. Let's get into it.
Yeah, that's true, because you did teach me warm-ups. You know what, Barbara? I haven't been
We
doing
could do one together. We could do it together.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Oh, this is one that I love. This is that I didn't have before. It's Topeka Bodega, which I, in my head, always call Bottega Veneta, but it's really Topeka Bodega, and it's an enunciation exercise, fabulous warm-up, and really great for your plosive consonants. It just goes Topeka, 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 Bodega, 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 Topeka, Bodega, Topeka, Bodega, Topeka, Bodega, Bodega, right? Because I love it. It's rhythmic. It just inherently moves your shout, right? Bodega, Bodega, Bodega,
Bodega,
Topeka, 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 Bodega, Topeka, Bodega, Topeka, Bodega, Topeka, Topeka. That's it, right? And you can just repeat it. You go fast, slow, but it just immediately like moves the shoulders.
Okay.
Right? And if you're standing.
Yeah.
And so then it's just like, okay, I feel nice and warmed up. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Tell me about these warm-ups, because I remember when we first spoke, you were like, Delina, warm-ups are important, which now I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't been doing It's like I'm taking notes selectively, I guess. Excuse me. I'm sorry about that. So, but okay, wait, let's do this. Let's do this one more time. Let's start from the top. Okay. So what is it? So Pika, well, you already did it, but I'm going to do it too.
We'll do it together. Okay. Are we recording or no? Oh yeah, we are. Oh, fabulous.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So it's really, really, really simple, but it really does. It just starts to loosen up the stuff, right? So it just goes, it's 3. Topeka, Topeka, Topeka.
Topeka, Topeka, Topeka.
Bodega, Bodega, Bodega.
Bodega, Bodega, Bodega.
Topeka, Bodega, Topeka, Bodega, Topeka, Bodega, Bodega.
Topeka, Bodega, Topeka, Bodega, Topeka, Bodega, Bodega.
Then it's just Bodega, 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 Topeka, 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 Bodega, Topeka, Bodega, Topeka, Bodega, Topeka, Topeka, right? You just can't just help, you can't help but use your shoulders, right?
Bodega, Topeka, Bodega, Topeka, Bodega, Topeka, Topeka. We're warmed up. We did it. I'm really happy to have you here, Barbara. The way I met you and the way I found out about you was through Francesca Ramsey, who's a client of mine. And I love her too. And, Francesca was like, she's always been a really big cheerleader of mine. And she's always shared like, different ways that I can advance, become a better person. And she realized that I was wanting to learn about hosting. And she was like, let me introduce you to my hosting coach. So that was you. And so I reached out, and I think at the time you were doing group lessons, as well as, and I can't remember, I think they were in person. You had some in-person options as well. But for some reason, I always did Zoom with you. I always did virtual with you. I'm just excited to talk to you about this, because I feel like by learning how to host or how to have conversations, it's opened up a whole new world for me, because I actually didn't come to New York to do on-camera work. Like, I came to New York to be behind the scenes, and then just kind of fell into this world.
I think the last year has taught us that everyone is on camera now, even though we've all been on camera for a long time and didn't realize it through job interviews. The CEOs in Singapore has got to talk to you today. We stream meetings. You've been queen of Instagram Live for such a long time, right? But I meant for all of us, business to business video. I create content on LinkedIn. My point is, I started too. I was like so firmly a behind the scenes person, and then business, technology, social media, marketing, all this stuff said, no, we all have to be in front of a camera. So it's how I developed my niche. But yes, very few of us started out like that's what I want to do. But here we are.
Did you know you always wanted to be a host, like a host and a hosting coach? Like, did you know that was a thing?
I didn't even know it existed.
Oh,
really? I mean, it's funny to me that people start out now and actually want to do this. Like, it's in college, I'll get notes saying I want to do that. I'm like, wow, that's incredible. I didn't even know it existed. It didn't exist. I kind of made up my job, but I started in the music business.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Wait,
really?
Let's talk about this. Yes.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Look, okay, so what part of the music business? Like, what were you doing? Were you singing? Were you tell me more. Now I want to know.
Absolutely not. And it's funny because fast forward, when I actually started to do well in my career outside the music business, I realized I was never meant to be in the music business. I just loved music and was a huge fan and loved hanging out and going to shows. So I had a fanzine when I was in college, and I was music director of my college radio station. So love. And I used to interview bands and go to shows and do stuff. And so I had two really important internships. I was the first college intern way back in the day at Virgin Records in London, which was
first?
Yeah, the first.
That's dope.
It was so super dope. I can't even tell you. It was the
And you lived in London, which is like one of the coolest cities.
Oh, it was so amazing. It was just an incredible time to be there too. And the music was amazing. And then I interned, that led to me getting an internship at A&M Records, which led me to get my first job in music management, a really powerful music management firm that was super into classic rock. And I was like a punkette into alternative music. So I was so fish out of water there, but I learned a lot. And then that led me actually to get a job at a talent agency, which this is where these things start to coalesce, because I was in the music department, but there I really learned about comedy, which was also personal appearance. And at some point I realized, through a series of things, I realized I needed to be doing something creative and not on the business side, but it taught me a lot. But I was just like, being an agent was not, and making deals was not what I wanted to do. So fast forward, I moved to New York because that was all happening in Los Angeles. And I moved to New York, and before I knew it, literally within 3 weeks of landing here, I was at VH1. But here, if you go deep into the woo-woo, the fabulous part of this is before I left Los Angeles, I had my horoscope read, like the real kind, like my chart done by someone, because I was all boohoo. I had my heart broken, and then I didn't get this really important job with a big movie producer. I wanted to be his assistant, and that fell through, and I was like, ugh. And so this woman reads my chart, and she says, you are totally doing the wrong job. You need to be working at the intersection of art and technology, which my head was like, what? But when she said that, I flashed on this exhibit by Name June Pak. I don't know if you know who that is. He's a Korean artist. And his breakthrough exhibit in 1963 was called Music Television Explosion. And within 2 months of her telling me that, I'm working at MTV at music television. Isn't that like, woo?
That's really cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. So MTV was headquartered in New York, right? So that's why you
right, 1515 Broadway.
Yeah. Okay, so how did you go from MTV, because that's really dope, but how did you go from MTV to start working as like a hosting coach? Because you're so good at it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it actually happened there because that was an amazing time to be at VH1. So I, through incredible luck and opportunity, created the talent development department there and became the host person. It was about casting hosts, VJ's hosts, but also celebrity talent, guests to do voiceovers. We got to cast all sorts of stuff. It was just such an amazing creative time that almost is non-existent now, because it was like, let's get into animation. Okay. And then I got the opportunity to, cast an animated series. We're going to look into doing scripted. you go be in charge of that because you're the casting person, you're the talent person. I'm like, okay. I mean, amazing experiences. And so through that, I really learned out that it was playing to my strengths and the ability to pull a performance out of someone. And the other thing I realized, we think about this all the time, is it really indulged my curiosity, because we're in a position to be like, you're interesting. Can we have a meeting with you? And it didn't matter who you were. So I remember like taking a meeting with Mark Ronson when he was just like a young whippersnapper record producer, and Padma Lakshmi, because she had this new cookbook called Easy Exotic, which I still own. Just tons of just like fascinating people, like so many fun. And, you know, working with Mark Maron way back in the day, and Jim Gaffigan, just tons of people. And we did all those award shows and the VH1 Fashion Awards and VH1 Honors. Amazing. And so then eventually there was a, you know, big shift top to bottom. And also I started having kids, and that's the travel started to get hard, because I was going to LA every 4 to 6 weeks, and my little one was a newborn. So just through a series of, it's a happenstance. And I wonder how much this happened to you too. You just make a decision, but I was out for dinner and I just left VH1 like literally that night. And I was kind of having networking dinner, and 2 women are like, so what are you going to do? And I don't know why, but I just blurted out, like, I'm starting my own business.
I've definitely done that before.
And they're like, that's great. What are you going to do? I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. And I did it. And the phone started ringing like literally the next day. And so that sometimes I remind people too, I didn't have a business card. I didn't have a personal email address yet, because those were those days. So sometimes you just propel yourself forward. And then, you know, now I'm a big believer in having a little bit more of a plan, but not letting those external things prevent you from moving forward. Because I can't tell you how many times in business people said I didn't submit because I didn't have a headshot, or I didn't have a resume, or my thing wasn't done. And I was like, I get it, but figure out the workaround. Don't let that prevent you from pursuing an opportunity. Because eventually I got a business card. Eventually, you know, got a business phone number and a PO box and a personal email address. I mean, it all came pretty quickly, but it didn't stop me from just putting it out there and creating momentum.
Yeah, I think you touched on something really important. Like something that I mention to people often is like, before I actually became, you know, a makeup artist, I would tell people, even when I was working in tech, like, oh, I'm a makeup artist. Instead of introducing myself as like, oh, I'm this girl who works for this technology sales company, I'd be like, oh, no, I do makeup. And what I realized is that opportunities come from that, because it's like you're owning the space, or you're owning the thing. So you're saying exactly what I feel like made a huge difference in my own life, is just to like to own that.
Well, to paraphrase Jay-Z, paraphrasing Napoleon Hill, you just spoke it into existence. So that's fantastic. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And you know what? I actually say it's the first line in my book, is that you don't need anyone to tell you you're a host. You don't need anyone to tell you you're an actor, because if you're doing your thing, you're it. You know,
especially now. I remember we talked about this, and I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but I'm going to go back. But we were talking about, you were like, oh, you could just make your own series on your YouTube channel. Like, and I was like that? Because I was like trying to, you know, all the strategy stuff that we're talking about in terms of like, oh, do this in order to get featured here and do that. It's like, no, just do the thing, put it out, and it'll come. Because it's just like, as you continue to build a following, that's who brands, that's who networks want to be connected with. And I didn't really even realize that. They're kind of connected.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we could talk a little bit about execution and putting some thought and intention into what we do, but
right.
because some people have amazing instincts. And then for some of us, it requires a little bit more, you know, checklist oriented. But I was thinking about this last night too, because it's really important that we don't let a bank account determine our worth or our success around something, especially when we're starting out. Absolutely. Right. Because, you know, if you think of yourself as a business, think about how many businesses take 5 to 7 years to become profitable, or whatever that thing is. And how are you investing in yourself? And so, so it's really important to declare, I am this thing that I want to do. So just because it's the same thing with an artist. If you're creating art, you're an artist. You don't even need to tell you're an artist.
Like sometimes we're looking for so much validation from the outside. You know, we stop ourselves from going forward or from doing anything. Like people want to work with or jump on like a moving train. Like they don't want to get into like a parked car and like see if it's going to start. You know what I mean?
So, what a great metaphor. Yeah, no, I totally see that. That's really good.
Yeah. One of the most amazing things I think about working with you is I really thrive in a one-on-one environment. Like I don't think I really knew that, but I love, you know, one-on-one interact. I actually think we're like very similar, by the way. We took like a personality test and you're like, oh wow. It's like, wait, we're quite similar actually. But I really thrive in this like one-on-one environment. So we would have our Zoom calls and our meetings in order to, do certain things. And then you'd be like, okay, this is your homework. And then we kind of come back like every 2 to 3 weeks and we review or we get better. But I do want to ask you, because I feel like some of the things that you mentioned to me very early on were, oh, I really think you should submit for this or submit for that. What do you think there was within me that also made you want to work with me? Because I felt very much chosen to work with you just as much as I chose to work with you. Like, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Vice versa. I feel like we were both choosing each other.
Wow. Well, I was actually thinking about that because I was looking at our email exchange and whatever the first emails were. And I was thinking about how happy I am every time I go on Instagram and you're right there in reels, like you're it always. And the reasons I bring this up is you bring me joy. You have such a tremendous energy and you're outward facing and you're so connected to your purpose and understanding what you do and how that brings so much value to the people that you touch and who interact with you. So that I sensed right away. And also your openness that you were serious about this, that you came to do the work, you rolled up your sleeves, you wanted to do it. And it wasn't, it was driven by good intentions. Like, I want to do this. I want to get better. I'm open. And I was like, you're fantastic. I'd love to work with you. But look at that smile. Right? The smile, the laugh, the warmth, you light up the screen. It was like, yes. And
you
also, stuff. Like, you're really good. Does everybody know how much you know? Like your chemistry background and your life experiences and all the things that you bring to what you do, so that you're an artist with makeup, but there's also, you're a psychologist, you're a scientist. I think you're a philosopher.
I love metaphors. We both love metaphors though. I think that's why when I get so many different people's emails where they share their like, you have your newsletter, but I really look forward to your newsletter because you always go really personal with it, which I really enjoy. It's not just like, hey, this is, and you give us up top, what you've been thinking about or what you've been pondering. And then you kind of go into, oh, and I have these things, that we're selling or we're working on, or I'm casting or whatever it is. But I find those to be, and I also felt seen by you in terms of your energy, because I am very high energy and you're very high energy. So I always felt like I had to be like calm, like, how some interviewers are, they're like, or hosts, they're just like, yes, okay, like very, and I was like, that's not me. Like, I want to be like I'm very excitable. So yeah, I felt very seen by the way that you also, do this.
I'm only laughing because even in the podcast space, people are like, Barb, you have to, maybe calm down a little bit. And I'm like, I'm so animated. I can't help it. I'm enthusiastic, and you are too.
Yeah, we are.
That's the other thing about feeling seen and heard. Because, for instance, so I love taking one of your makeup courses that we had during the pandemic, and I felt so welcome and safe there, which should seem obvious, right? But I hop on a lot of things, and one doesn't always feel safe and welcome and heard. And I was really, and I think about it because I use that green primer all the time.
It's so great, right?
It's fabulous. But I mean, so it's very simpatico in that thing, and understanding you show up for everyone. Because I remember the beginning too was the first, we also worked through when you were doing your first big event, a live event, right? And all the multiple components of that. And just, again, your intentions are always there. You're always showing up for others.
Thank you. Yeah, we worked through a couple different things. And what I also liked about it is it wasn't like, the benefit of working one-on-one with you was that as things were happening, you were like, okay, well, what are you working on this week? Or who are you pitching? I didn't really realize, like, becoming a host for, a special, or maybe working on something like where it's like 5 or 6 minute segment or like a 2-minute segment is very different than hosting your own live event, or all of these different things. I'm thinking same energy. And you're like, well, some of them, especially if you're working all day, you have to sustain your energy. So how are you doing that? And then it's like, how are you presenting this? Maybe you want to get an investor in something. It's like, how do you present for that? And you've been talking about how people have been on camera for years. And I know that you've created, what is the exact name of what you were saying? Like, you need to be ready for being on camera. Like, everyone's on camera, but there's a specific name for what you would say. Do you remember?
Camera ready.
Yeah, on camera, but it was like, I'm trying to remember the exact.
What did I say? Oh my God, I can't remember. Because right now it really is. It's camera readiness, but everybody needs to be
on camera.
Ready. Yeah,
the whole world.
Yeah, we're already on camera. That's when we forget. And I've had to go through that too. You know, there have been times when I've done workshops, you know, for private clients, and I'm in person in a conference room somewhere, and yet we're streaming that to satellite offices. I mean, all the time I've gone into pitch meetings myself where, you know, people are here and then, you know, in the meeting, and then other people are at satellite offices. I do it all. I meant pre-pandemic, just because the technology exists. You know, I've been using Skype for auditions since 2010 or 2009.
Wow. That's wild. And I feel like people are just now getting used to it. In fact, so when I first started doing, you know, people are literally like, oh my gosh, I have to be on video. So when I first started at Cisco Systems, actually, we had all of this video. Like, there was like a video team, you know what I mean? So we had the video phones at our desk. So when we would answer, the person would be on video. And this was 2000 and it was probably 2011, maybe. Everyone in the office had this. And so even though somebody was literally just down the hallway, they're video calling you and you can see them.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then, you know, and then there were the bigger conference rooms where they had, you know, the video integrated, where it was called telepresence, which I'm sure is like, you know, probably still around. I don't know, but I'm not in these big rooms anymore. I think we're all using our computers and our laptops and all that. But, you know, when you have the big conference rooms, you want to have a room where you can really see everybody. You can see their facial expressions and all that. So I got used to video very quickly then. And I also created my own YouTube channel in like 2008. So that was like,
early adopter.
I'm like, you know what I call myself? A late early adopter, because I wait until like the technology, like some people are using it already, and I'm like, okay, I'll join this thing. So when you're looking for people that want to be on camera, like if they're like, hey, I'm interested in doing something on camera, like what are the qualities that you're looking for in the person to work with them?
Well, one is the desire to do the work.
Okay.
Right? It's this that you're really coming in an open-hearted way. I mean, to go deep, but it's, for instance, so, you know, I get a lot of referrals through publicists that I work with, which I appreciate all the time, but it makes a big difference if someone's coming through their publicist and they want to do the work versus they're being dragged to do the work. Right? Because this is a very, you know, it is a very intimate and vulnerable relationship and process. So you have to want to do it, because we go deep, and everyone encounters fears and blocks and limiting beliefs during the process, because we're not just talking, we're communicating, and you're not playing a character, it's you, and all the gremlins pop up. And so I do look for people who want to do the work, and that's why, you know, they're also, I mean, that to me is often sort of number one, is that you really want to do it. And then I don't even want to say realistic expectations, because everybody has different goals and different process, but it's the desire. And I actually do often say, a lot of people I work with, I feel like can't work with anyone else. Like, if you could work with someone else, maybe you should go work with them. But if you can't work with anyone but me, we're so together. Yes, that's it. Because I love mavericks and outliers and unicorns, and that's why I love working with founders and startups and entrepreneurs and artists and all sorts of creatives. Because the other thing too, most of the people I work with are looking to make an impact, and that's the thing that I care so much about. And I understand that that's my part of the process, that I'm here to help people of impact make their impact, and that's, you know, when I do what I do well, you go out and do what you do better, and then you go out and change the world.
You know, one of the things that and I'm thinking about this too, in terms of unpacking there's definitely, when you talked about uncomfortable, that is a thing. Like, you feel, there were certain exercises that you told me to do where I felt so silly. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so silly doing this. Like, you know, whether it was just trying to, like, you know, learn how to sell something and like make it seem real. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really actually selling something. It's so funny how like you said, you have these.
Why was that
blocks.
uncomfortable? I'm just challenging you because that's really
Yeah.
uncomfortable for many of us.
Yeah.
Because
That's
then
a
you have
great
to
question.
unpack, why do I feel uncomfortable around sales? What are my feelings around money? What do I feel? What kind of judgment am I feeling? You know,
You
it
know
goes
what?
heavy.
I think it was also, I feel like it was more it felt like I was acting. And so, because it was like, oh, I don't really need to sell this thing. So now I'm like pretending to sell this thing. So that felt more as if I was
That's fair.
kind of, right? So I don't know if it was the actual selling part or if it was more like the make believe part of it. Cause I always struggle with that, right? Like
And go choose something else to sell.
I know, right? Exactly.
But at the end of the day, we're always selling ourselves. We're selling our
Exactly.
ideas. And it's for a lot of people, it's the reframing around the notion of what we think about sales.
Yeah. And you help me kind of unblock that area. And then I think I'm so used to, like you just said it, I'm so used to selling myself, but not necessarily selling a product. So like, even when I would work for a company, it's like, oh, I'm a representative of this company, but me talking for me and selling something for me is a very different experience. So, and when you get hired, whether it's like to go on TV to talk about, Kiehl's, moisturizer or whatever it is, it's like they want you to speak from your personal experience about this product, but as a brand representative, but you're more representing you that likes this thing. So it's like a little bit, at least the kind of segments that I've been doing. So it's been
And is that
interesting.
easier than if it had your name on it?
Yes, it has been. Isn't that interesting?
I think that, no, because I could sell you much easier than I could sell me. Right. But that's actually not that weird. I mean, that's one of the reasons why, it's nice to have an agent. It's nice to have a publicist. It's nice to have somebody advocating on your behalf.
Yeah.
Right. Because let that person go do the salesy part, depending on what that is, or the negotiation.
Yeah.
So I think there are many of us who share that, but at the end of the day, we still have to come in and deliver because someone else might then open the door. Someone got you the segment, but you got to stick that landing. You got to go in and win the gold medal.
Yeah.
Right?
And then, another thing that I feel like you also taught me as well is like, producers have a job to do. And if they like you, they're going to give you other opportunities to talk about other types of things. So I appreciate that, but also making sure that I'm staying in my lane with the things I want to do, right? Like that passion versus money thing, where it's like, they might come to you. I had a producer come to me recently and ask me if I would do like a style segment. Like, Barbara, I am not a style girl. I'm a makeup girl. I could talk about, you know what I mean? Beauty and all these types of things. And you and I both know that the fast way in which they ask questions, I have to know about style for real. Like, not just like kind of, there's no amount of rehearsing you can do if you're not an expert in style, because you're on the show and then all of a sudden, Hoda's like, well, what do you do if you want to make your legs look longer? And you're like, I don't know. Hey, let me tell you about this eyeliner real quick. So I felt like knowing where I wanted to go. And this was really, was really important, and trying to stay within that space and the ability to be able to choose where I wanted to go and stay in that has always been really, really important to me. And I love that you also encourage me to do that. You're like, okay, fine, sure. If you want to do that, do this. If you want to, if you want to do the thing that you want to do, go do that. And let me show you how to do that, versus like, you sure? Like, I think you should really, really try and maybe, do this thing. It's really helpful that you have this type of guidance, because we've done, I did a speech for my school for NC State that you helped me through. I did the live event, which was like my first masterclass, which you helped me walk through and understand how to present to everyone. And then we also did like on camera stuff. I don't know if was I doing Style Code Live when we met? I can't remember what I was doing. I was doing some kind of segment, but I think we walked through either that one or, I think it was the Wendy show that you helped me with.
Yeah, because mastering Wendy is its own
thing.
I mean, she's so fabulous, but she's going to go way off script. She's going to interrupt your segment, right? I mean, It's why we watch and why we love her. But the preparation for that is its own masterclass.
Exactly. And the cool thing about that is her producer knows her so well that, you know, you're not rehearsing with Wendy, you're rehearsing with her producer, but her producer will literally be like, oh, what's that? Like, she does exactly what Wendy does, because she knows, you know what I mean? She's like, give me more energy here and do this. And it's a dance too, because people like when Wendy leads. So I've done a couple segments there, and sometimes, you know, the first time I was like, okay, I was letting her kind of lead. And then at the second time I was leading more, and I noticed the comments were like, she seems like she's leading, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, you all kind of like where she's kind of going wherever she's going. And then for me to follow that. So it was, I've been learning.
It's always a learning curve.
Yeah, that's always been.
But, you know, I do want to, if I can, I just want to make because I really appreciate you bringing up the point of having the courage to say no. Because I work with people all the time about that, is that just to ask yourself, how does this move me forward? Because a really good example where this comes up all the time is working for free or not. And I don't think there's one fast rule about that. It depends on where you are in your career and what are the upsides or the downsides, and choosing for yourself and feeling really good about the choice that you make. Right? Because for some people, getting tape or brand awareness or any number of things can be a really valuable reason why, or experience, just being like, I want to get really good at this, building relationships, any number of reasons, depending on who that person is. You know what, I got in front of so-and-so, that was worth it to me. And then other times you'd be like, no, I need to get paid because it feels exploitive. And like, fair enough. Right. But you have to it's always making choices, because it'll happen too. Because especially anything that has a marquee name, it's like, so-and-so called me for a segment, and it can be hard to say no, because you're like, but you're absolutely right. Don't sign on for something that you can't deliver on.
That part. Because you get so excited. You get so like swept up into the
adrenaline goes. Yes.
Yeah. And I've had, you know, friends call me that have also done segments and maybe it didn't go so well. And they're like, oh my gosh, it didn't go well because I was out of my league. I was doing something I had no business doing. And now that it's aired, you know, and maybe they've gotten some kind of like bad press from it or whatever it was, or it went viral, or, you know, but like not good viral, but bad viral. And, you know, you know, there's good viral, then there's bad viral, but it's like, some of it is because it's preventative from just saying, you know what, the answer is actually no. I don't know enough in that space to be considered an expert in that space. And that's okay.
That's like, totally okay.
Sometimes we think they're never going to call us again, but it's like, it'll happen.
Yeah. Well, that's human nature. But it's more, you know, one of the ways to reframe this, like, thank you so much for thanking me, and focus on the relationship you've just developed with a producer. And maybe, and there are a lot of ways to play that. It's like, that's awesome. You know what? I'm not the right person, but maybe you should contact so-and-so.
Oh my gosh, I just did that. And then the girl actually got the job, and she literally just texted me and she was like, oh my God, I got it. And yeah, so that was really cool, because you said, it's like, yeah, other people can be an expert in what you're not an expert in. And it doesn't mean that you have to like try and be like, oh man, I didn't get it, so no one else needs to know about this thing. It's like, they're going to find somebody, but you should probably try and be.
But you just did two people a solid. Let's acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Right. And this is a relationship driven business. I don't know that many businesses that aren't in a certain way. So that's really great. You're generously putting out there. There's room for everyone.
Yeah. Do you seek out hosts to work with, or do most of them come to you? How does that work for you?
My business is so referral based. And the only reason I'm laughing and making a face is because, you know, I work with business coaches and different advisors, and it's so hard to be like, I know that's not exactly how you're supposed to build a business, because it's, you know, what are your income projections based on referrals? But you know, going back to the woo-woo side of it, it just is, right? So I do marketing. I mean, I do, you know, to your point, I have my newsletter. I'm active on social media. I have my book. I do, you know, so they're all different sort of entry points for people, from free information to very affordable. I do teach classes, and everything is, you know, transitioned to digital through the past year. So there are a bunch of different ways. So yes, I do marketing, but for the most part, it's really like, you know, if I pitch myself, it's things don't really work out, but, you know, workshops the stuff just comes. So it's that same way you told everyone you were a makeup artist. And it's like, yeah, I'm open, I'm available. And that's really true. And look how generous you are with me. I mean, it's just fantastic. I thank you. And I really appreciate it. So, yeah, so people find me. But as part of the other thing, to go back to that, Delina, is you can find me. that's another thing that I'd say is be available for you, make it easy for people to find you.
Yeah, that's true. Like having having that website, having, this newsletter, which I feel
SEO.
like, right, exactly, where people know how to find you. Yeah, which we learned from Marie.
But even pre Marie, when people would, because it's about 5 or 6 years ago, I did the old Google, and I realized I wasn't on page 1, and I freaked out, which I think anyone with a small business really should, because I am such a hyper niche, and I was like, so it became this whole thing to get on page 1 and learning about SEO and doing things differently. And that's really when I transitioned. It's around 2014, just to be a little bit more of an adult or a grown up about my business and with intention anyway. And so I will often ask people who reach out to me and we've not met or it's not through a referral. I'm like, how did you find me? I was like, I Googled and you came up, and I'm always sitting here doing a happy dance to myself. Like, oh my God, I'm so excited.
What do you think is like the number one question people ask when they're trying to find a hosting coach? Are they like, hey, I'm looking for a host. I need to get better at this. I want to talk on camera, or,
That's a great question. I mean, I should actually know the answer to that because it's very SEO based. But I think usually, I think the typical things, it's media coach, media training, TV hosting coach are probably the searches that I'm pretty much aware of.
What are your main, like you said that you like to work with artists and outliers in terms of like people who are owners of their own company, but like if you could like say, who are you most interested in working with? Not to like alienate anybody, but it's like this is like the most exciting, the most exciting part of owning your own business, because that's exciting and free as well. And how was that for you, moving into owning your own business? Because I loved that transition. It was a little scary, but I loved it.
100%. I never looked back. I mean, so many of us say that now, right? I look for people to collaborate with, and I have corporate clients that I work with that I love, and Cheddar I've been with since 2017, and that's a visionary company with extraordinary people who I love and I'm so grateful to work with, and some others. But I'm so happy to have my thing that I work with or I consult, as opposed to being an employee. It made such a difference for me as a working mother when my kids, just raising my kids, because you work, this. I mean, you work whatever, 80-hour weeks are not rare when you're building something, but I got to choose where those 80 hours went. Right. And technology's really worked for me in that way. I mean, some people early days would complain about smartphones and being tethered to these devices. And I'm like, it gave me so much freedom, because then I could be wherever I needed to be and get work done. So I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, so yeah, I had no idea. I mean, Delina, I didn't even know words like income stream or return on investment, or, I've often said this, like back in my VH1 MTV Networks days, do you know business affairs and creative were in different buildings? That's how separate the, understanding things were.
Yeah.
Right. We were just in our happy creative bubble. I mean, I was in charge of a multi-million-dollar budget. Not that I was irresponsible with it, by the way, but I meant, it was, I didn't know anything about marketing. So I had to learn a lot of this stuff, the hard way. So that would be the one thing. That's where I'm grateful to different mentors, Marie Forleo, different business coaches I've worked with, virtual mentors, whatever it is. It's just becoming a sponge and learning about these things. So there was a time somewhere around 2013, 14, where I realized, it's really when I started adding coaching to the casting side of my business, because I realized I was, again, not marketing this. These opportunities were coming to me, and someone had planted the seed somewhere. It's like, if you put a little effort into this is an income stream. And I'm like, what's that? Do I want another income stream? And they're like, yes, you do. You know what I mean? Now it's like, whatever, you have 5 or 6 income streams, and it's like, I get it. This is great. So a lot of, slipping and sliding and silly mistakes along the way. But great. Would do it all over again in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Did that make any sense? Did I just ramble?
No, that was perfect. And I wanted to ask, like, for somebody who's interested in doing more on camera work, whether it's like, we talked about this as well, as like, even if you're interviewing with your new potential manager or you're having conversations, like, what are some things that you feel like people could really learn from you, like in terms of the content that they might not even know that they should be doing? Like, biggest mistake, I would say.
I actually love this question because it comes up all the time with clients who are looking to try to get an agent. But same thing, pitching for VC money. Pitching is an audition. These are meetings and meetings. So one of the things, the number one thing we all have to learn is to understand your value. And we all have value, but it's like, one is how do you fit in, right? So you understand like sort of checklist of hard skills or whatever anybody's looking for, then getting really clear on how you stand out, which is, what's your magic? What are your superpowers? But also what's your value, and marrying that to what that person or that entity needs. Because one of the biggest mistakes I see, I don't even know if I want to call it mistakes, is people not understanding this part of it or not understanding business. So thinking, I know how to do this thing, whatever that is. So therefore I'm competitive. I'm valuable. I'm like, no, being able to do the job is the base. Like that's down here. It's like, what else have you got? What do they need that you can do beyond the basics? And that can vary from being in alignment with each other's values. Culture fit's a huge thing for so many businesses and brands now. Extra skills that you might bring. So an obvious one that I bring up a lot is, if you can edit video and do any of that kind of stuff, working for lots, because then you go to work for someone like me. It's like, thank you, I need that. That's a nice added bonus. Foreign language skills, just all sorts of things that could just be added value. Maybe you have amazing contacts. Maybe you have amazing writing skills. There's just going to be so many different things that, like, what do you bring? In the television space, we need eyeballs. So you have that special something that gets people to stick around episode after episode. You have that special something that gets people to come back after a commercial because we want to stay and watch you. You understand enough how business works. You have range. This is a true story. It's like, when we're doing travel shows, we're sitting around thinking like, do I want to spend 13 weeks in a van on bumpy roads in the middle of a desert with this person?
That's real.
Right. And then we look for, do you have the emotional bandwidth to do the job? Because this is stressful and a lot of money is being spent. And this can be across the board. And that certainly comes up when people are looking to do collaborations and be brand ambassadors. Can you handle the pressure of this? Can you, not only we're doing the job and it's outward facing, but, oh yeah, we need you to go do some meet and greets with our key advertisers. This is right. There's all these ancillary things that go into so many things that we do that when you're starting out, you don't realize that those are part of the components and the things that other people are mastering or doing better. So when you're going into pitch for money, those people are busy and they have short attention spans. So that's an example. You've got to respect other people's time, make it easy, understand you've got to, get in there and identify your value and connect it to what they need. And in that case, people are looking like, am I going to make my money back? Can this person execute? They've got a brilliant idea, but do I believe that you can really deliver on what you're saying, that when it gets tough, and it will, you'll, make it through?
I agree with you completely, because I've heard also, like, just because they're looking to see obviously that you know how to present your idea, but they're also really looking at, do you look like somebody who's actually going to really get this work done? Because you can be a fantastic presenter, as we've all, hired different people to work for our businesses, and they were amazing in the interview. And then they get in the job and you're like, what's happening? You know what I mean? So I feel like there's a mix of both. They're checking out, like, it's almost like the things that you're not saying with your body language and all of that as well that comes through to make them trust you. Which is quite interesting if you think about it.
No, there's an art around that, depending on where you are. So in the casting space, the more money involved, the more expensive a project or the bigger the budget, the more intense the interview process will be, right? Because it's really, really, really important. It's like, so part of it's that, yes, the emotional bandwidth, and in business, it's referred to as a stress interview, to actually find out where. Some ways it can be your breaking point, because that happens in a lot of in finance. And it's not to mean that it's a negative, it's just to understand who you are and how well you handle these aspects, because things will always happen. So fun story. I mean, I hope this is on topic to you, but like really fun examples, because I worked on a show about this, would be, plant an employee, like as a town car driver, and create stressful situations and find out, like, are you freaking out or do you maintain your composure?
Ooh.
Another great one was an example for a telecom company that has to deal with, foreign governments and treaties, right? And really, really serious, especially, cultures around the world who handle business very differently than we do. So in this example, the top candidates were invited to, like, at 7 a.m. for an interview, and then just left in the reception area for hours and hours and hours. And the person who got the job, this is a true story, was a young woman who just sat calm, cool, and collected while, other people are pacing and getting visibly agitated. And it's like, that's a common scenario at the, highest levels, that you're dealing with foreign governments, and you could just be kept waiting for days and days and days and days and days, and you've got to keep your cool.
Wow, that's amazing. Like that they're even planning, the level of thought behind that planning with it is quite wild. You know what I'm also thinking about too? This is probably the biggest lesson I think I've learned from you is practice.
Oh,
I don't know why in my mind I was like, oh, if I just write it down and show up. Like what? Like why was that a thought? It's like, no, Delina, like actually practice the thing that you're gonna do before you do the thing that you're gonna do. And so now I ask for like certain, like when I'm talking to the producer, I'm asking them about everything from the timing to like, okay, when are we going to go to commercial? You know what I mean? Okay, so who are they going to kick it to first? Okay, how is the B-roll going to run? So I'm going through all this stuff at the same time. So they're like,
smart.
Yeah, so now the control room doesn't have to like switch back and forth. They already have their plan, and I'm on plan, and I'm not necessarily going just with what I'm seeing. I'm going with what I know I need to see. So like that practice part made a huge difference, I think, in just the ability to be able to be a little bit more off the cuff when, random questions come up. I'm like, oh, okay, I can answer that.
Yes, because you're prepared.
Yeah. So I don't know why in my mind, maybe not in your mind, but in my mind, I was like, yeah, if I just kind of know it in my head, I'll get there and I'll do my thing.
I work on that so much because it's in my little ebook, winners don't wing it, because I'm going to push this back. It's like, look at who your clients are.
Yeah.
And how much preparation goes into everything. So, so it has nothing to do with your skill set
at all,
or how good you are, or your values. So we have to get past the idea that we're not just talking, we're communicating. We have goals. We have to do things with intention. Timing matters. Platforms matter. So I always say, what's your goal? Who's the audience? What's the platform? How do you talk to that audience via that platform to achieve the goal? You want to be clear on what that is. But you want to focus on what you can control, right? And so that also calms down the gremlins that pop up, because it's like, I can handle this. I've done my preparation. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to breathe. It's so hugely important. I always say that's like Serena's the goat. She doesn't wake up and say, I'm going to sleep in.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I want to talk about what you're working on right now and what people can pick up from you. I know you mentioned a book, so I just wanted to go through a couple of these things. Yes.
Well, my exciting news is I'm launching my own podcast, and you're going to be on it.
I am?
You are.
I'm so excited. That's so exciting. What's the name of the podcast?
It's called Camera Ready and Able.
Yes. I love how you're using your last name with it. That's so great. Camera Ready and Able.
It's exploring the intersection of media and change, which is really exploring, personal growth and cultural shifts. It's where these two things intersect, which is what I love and am passionate about.
I'm so excited. That is going to be amazing.
Thank you. So I'm really, really excited about that, but also actually starting to work more on creative projects in addition to what I've been doing. So I still love my media coaching and, offering courses and one-on-one coaching and ramping back up with workshops for organizations as we can do more and more of that. But I'm actually also starting to work on pitching projects and being attached to things that I've helped create. And I'm actually working on a scripted project with an old dear friend. So hopefully I can come back a year from now and be like, this is what's happening.
I love
it. But it's really so creatively fulfilling, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It's really, I love it.
That's so cool. Have you done scripted projects in the past, or is this new?
No,
That's
brand new. I mean, I
exciting.
did screenwriting in college because I don't know if you know, my degree's in film studies, and I've worked on the businessy side of film, and I cast some scripted projects back in the day, but this is my first time being, part of developing a scripted concept. So it's so fun, and so that's another thing. Just to always remind, it's like, why not? I mean, a lot of intention goes into this, right? It's, but at the same time, it's like, we could do, why can't we? And it's okay that I'm at this place in my career and I don't have to be stuck in a box. And yes, it's true. It's like, now it's on me to change the narrative and get people not to raise their eyebrows and go, what, no, you're kidding. But you have no track record. I'm like, I know, but I've done these other awesome things. So I feel like I could do this.
Yeah, I think that that's exactly the way to do it. And I feel like when you're awesome at one thing, a lot of people want you to do other things. So the things you're passionate about, they're like, oh yeah, let's do it together. So that's exciting. I'm excited for you. It's gonna be
Thank you. What
yeah.
else do you have going on? Because this is really exciting.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm really excited about this. I've always been, a very naturally curious person, which we share in common. So I'm excited I get to talk to people that, I love, admire, and just I really feel like have impacted my business and my life in a really awesome way. And so I'm hoping that, people who are listening to this get a chance to meet you, work with you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be really great. So this is what I'm working on right now. And then also I've been working a lot on different social media content. So that's been a really
Which
big
I love.
pivot. Thank you.
No, you've been a
Um,
godsend the last year. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. I
Really,
appreciate that.
I can't, I'm not kidding when I say it's like I open up my Instagram and you're right there front and center in my reels. I'm like, yay, I needed this. I really, really, really needed this. And watching you dance and be so generous and energetic and warm and wonderful and loving. But I want to say too, what you just said,
Yeah.
when you asked about what do I look for in a client, curiosity. To have
Mm,
that kind of openness and intellectual curiosity about the world, that you care, that you're outward facing, it's not all inward facing.
mhm.
Because let's face it, I have a job that does attract a lot of narcissists, and I love many, many of my narcissists. But we
Yeah.
have to help.
Oh, I know.
How do we turn that? How do we, it's not all this way. Let's turn some of it that way.
I agree with you completely. Exactly. It's like, how do I make sure that I'm still able to work with people that I want to help them amplify their voices? Because more of that needs to be in the world. So I totally know what you mean. I'm very
The meaning
selective
of
about my
those.
clients in that way. Yeah, exactly.
Don't you feel like you attract amazing people?
I do. I
I,
do. I
I feel
really
so
do.
grateful all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
in fact, this actually came up recently where a friend of mine were talking about we're both on the same Facebook feed for a big global brand. And she was talking about like the posts that she gets from that feed, she thought were really negative. And it's so funny. It's like, I only get the happy ones. Like we have totally different experiences of that same brand. I'm like, that's
It's so
crazy.
funny. Yeah, I really feel like sometimes, and I'm not saying that you can't obviously get, trolls and things like that, online. Everyone is, susceptible to that. But I feel like I agree with you. Overall, the internet for me has actually been quite a happy place.
Yeah.
It's not been, I don't know. At least right now it's good.
Yeah.
Should
But
say that.
yeah, but it's like getting what you put out or how we
Yeah,
see the world. And
for
yes,
sure.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
And so I do. I feel really blessed. It's like the most interesting people come in my door. And the other thing too, which is one of the maxims of coaching, and I wonder if you find this as a makeup artist, but it's like every single person I talk to, you included, tells me something that day that I needed to hear or learn from.
Yes.
Literally every day. It's one of the
Yeah.
reasons I am so excited to get up every morning, which is beyond grateful because not everyone has a job that they love.
That's a good way to put it. That's the reason why I'm excited to get up in the morning, because I find myself like you referencing conversations I just had or something I just thought of, or, I do that so often in conversation, but I didn't even realize or even like relate it in that way that, oh, wow, this is a reason to get up in the morning because I'm learning, I'm having aha moments every day.
Every
You
day.
know? Wow. That's a good way to put it.
Hmm.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Barbara. This has been so
Thank you.
fantastic.
Oh, I adore you, Delina.
Yeah, definitely. We have to, I'm looking forward to being on your podcast.
Oh, I
And
can't
I
wait.
want to
I'll
say
send you a
thank you.
link.
Yes. All right. I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to It Takes a Village. Be sure to check out the show notes for more details on how to follow and connect with Barbara Barna Abel. It Takes a Village was produced by Tanny Productions. The team includes Britt Robbins, Delisha Dixon, and Maria Verhel de Jos. Our theme music is by B. Nick. If you like this conversation, subscribe right now so you don't miss our next episode coming to you very soon. Follow us on Instagram at Delina Medhin Presents, where you'll see and hear more clips from the podcast that didn't make it into the episode. And follow me at Delina Medhin. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.